Coming up, Kevin Klose and John. Oh, this is the wrong script. Thank you very much. Kevin and John have their review of Dine with an Animal Person at Animal Kingdom Lodge. Coming up next. Thanks. This is the DIS Unplugged, episode number 674 for the week of January 28th, 2014. The DIS Unplugged is brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel, experts at helping you plan the perfect Disney vacation. Visit them on the web at www.dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. Yeah, I am all thrown off now.
Yeah, I thought I had changed
No,
that.
this is still Oscars at the Waldorf.
Oh, that's weird.
As long as we're not meat finders, it's okay. Animal person.
All right, cowboy.
So I didn't even know you could do this. Apparently at Sanaa, at Animal Kingdom Lodge, you can dine with an animal, have lunch with an animal expert, kind of, I guess, along the same lines as dine with an Imagineer.
Lunch with an Imagineer, correct.
And John and Kevin, along with our good friend Heather Weil, one of our very good friends and one of the greatest ladies I've ever met.
I agree.
Had a chance to do this recently, and they are here to report on their experience. So tell me about this, because I know nothing about it.
Before you start, Dustin asked us to do things we had never done before. So we think
Dance on the Savannah?
pretty much. Dance with wolves. So this worked out. So we were kind of surprised. We didn't know about it either until Heather mentioned it. So it's kind of hidden. Go ahead.
So was here on a trip. Heather is a vet, for those who don't know about Heather, and she was here for a convention. And then after her convention, she stayed for a couple of extra days on vacation. And during that time, she asked us if we wanted to join her for this Dine with an Animal Expert. She made all the arrangements, and we showed up. It was in Sanaa, in Kidani Village at Animal Kingdom Lodge. And I got to be honest with you, we were a little worried about it. We were a little concerned. We did not have high expectations.
Oh, because you're jaded and cynical.
We are jaded and cynical. We thought, oh, great, we're going to sit
No, not
around.
we, you.
We, as in Kevin and I.
I'm not jaded or cynical.
No, I was saying Kevin embraces the world.
Oh, sure.
Oh, Lord. That doesn't mean I want to be hugged.
So we kind of went in thinking we didn't know much about this. We didn't know what to expect. We thought, oh my God, we're going to sit there and it's going to be, this big table with 20 people, and this animal expert is just going to sort of lecture us on animals and all this stuff. And we thought, all right, well, let's go. Let's experience it. We can talk about it and see,
And we've voiced our opinion of Sanaa.
Right.
So
We've been to Sanaa before. We had reviewed that restaurant.
You've been to Snob Pointed.
We have been. So we went and checked in. Went very smoothly. We were greeted by a young man who we could not understand a word of what he said.
he kept telling me he was going to be my marchand.
He said, I'm going to be your marchand.
And I kept saying, I don't know what that is. Well, as he was walking to our table, we went back and forth with, I'm going to be your marchand. I don't know what that is. And I think the idea of repeating it was going to explain it. It didn't work. I finally stopped and I said, what are you going to be? He said, you're merchant.
Apparently, Sanaa is separated into different areas to represent a marketplace in African culture. And he was our merchant.
Okay.
So
it wasn't interesting enough for the 4-minute conversation about what it was.
So he showed us our table, and we were very surprised to find that our table was only 5 seats.
Oh.
We thought we're going to be in this room, there's going to be all these people, and we had a small table. Turns out it was just Heather, Kevin, and I who had booked the lunch.
Because no one knows about it.
Exactly, pretty much. And it was the animal trainer, animal expert.
Trainer.
It was not, she specifically let you know she was not a trainer.
She was the animal expert. She was a handler. And her name was Jen, and it was her immediate supervisor had joined us.
And his name was Joseph.
Correct. And we have a picture of them. Very nice. This was unusual for Joseph to join us. He was relatively new to this, wanted to see what the experience was like himself, wanted to see what he could add, and also sort of take notes as to what maybe kind of feedback we were giving and see if they can make the experience better. So we walked in, we greeted them. They were very, very nice. And we sat down, and there was actually food already on the table for us.
Okay.
Okay, that's a good start.
Yeah.
The chef came over, Chef David at Sanaa, and explained to us what we would be having, asked about dietary restrictions, asked about allergies, that kind of thing, explained thoroughly what we were going to be eating and what the inspiration is for Sanaa. And I had never heard this before. And there are several spice routes or routes through Africa, and Sanaa follows a very specific spice route from China through India and down into Africa. I never heard that before.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of cool.
He went into a long explanation of everything we were going to eat, the inspiration behind everything, the flavors that went into everything, and how he felt these choices best represented the restaurant.
I've never been a huge fan of the food at Sanaa. I've explained that it's not bad, it's just not to my liking. We started out with the bread service, they call it. I think we have a photo of that. It's 12 different dips, and you're just going to have to trust me that I don't remember all of them. I'm sorry, 9 different dips. And they start with the most spicy, which is up in the left-hand corner, and they work their way down to the right corner, and that's a cucumber-based, it's called a raita.
And I just want to let those who are listening and not watching know that these pictures that we're talking about and displaying on our video, that you can find them on the show notes page, or links to them on the show notes page, disunplugged.com.
There were several different varieties of bread that were served with these dipping sauces. And this was a great thing to get the conversation going because everybody was trying them. This is one of the best things I can think of. I think the different flavors of this were great. It allows you to try a bunch of different stuff. Just lovely.
Now, and this is not the normal bread service?
Yes, actually, that you can order that.
Okay, so okay.
There's usually 3 sauces, but you can order all 9. You can have a choice of 3, or you can order all 9. We've had this in the past. It's very good.
Okay, now that they had somebody explain this to you, do you feel differently about the food?
No, I didn't feel differently about the food yet. I do now.
Okay.
Our entree course.
We'll talk a little bit about what happened, though, because at the time we were doing the bread service, we kind of got a chance to know the animal handler and her manager, and they sort of did around the table, why are you here? How'd you hear about us? What are you expecting to get out of this? And a little bit about what they were going to do, which was she explained that she said, I'm not going to sit here and read a script to you. She goes, I'd really like for you to interact with me, ask questions. We will tell you anything.
To which John said, no.
Exactly. I will shut down on you. And was sort of this idea of, she set the tone for that. This wasn't us sitting there and listening to her. This was an interactive experience. It did get a little dicey when they went around the table and asked what our favorite animal was, and I said it was based on how it was prepared. She kind of shut down a little bit. But I thought this was great.
You're lucky she didn't start throwing paint on you.
Exactly. We're gone. So, go ahead, on with the food.
This whole choreographed.
No, I want to talk about how things went.
You're messed up. You are messed up.
We got a chance to talk. We asked any questions we wanted, and it was great. With having a vet there was that component, which was very interesting, that I would not have. She asked questions I wouldn't have thought of. But some of the things that I thought were interesting as to how they handle animals during our inclement weather. Mm-hmm. And if it's just going to be rain, they kind of let them ride that out outside. For hurricanes and things of such, all animals have a barn. Mm-hmm. A place to go in. So they do have a way to put them in. The hardest ones to take care of are the giraffes because of the fact that
they're 80 feet tall.
Right.
Yeah.
They're the biggest ones. We asked about the heat. One of the questions that I found fascinating was we asked them if there was an animal that they wanted on the savannah that wasn't there already. And without hesitation, they both spoke in unison and said, yes, the rhinos. However, because of the fact that this is, first of all, another barn would have to be built, they have to come up with a compelling reason as to why the rhinos would be an addition.
Don't they already have
This is at
rhinos?
the
Not
animal.
on
Animal Kingdom
Savannah.
Lodge. Okay, okay, right,
And
right.
the way they talked about this, these are, while they're symbiotic and they go back and forth, these are really two separate operations.
Okay.
They are.
They consider sort of each savanna, in the loosest terms, its own zoo. So they say, like, well, this is our animals for this savanna. There's a savanna over at Kidani. Then there's obviously Animal Kingdom, the theme park. So that's how they treat the animals.
And so those animals stay in their own little area all
Right.
the time.
Now,
They do, but there is a sharing between the savannas.
absolutely, what they'll do, from my understanding, is certain animals, the breeds that cross over between the different savannas. If one particular individual animal is not happy or isn't getting along with the other animals, say at the theme park, then they'll move them over to the hotel. That kind of thing. And of course, all of the nutrition and the medical facilities, all that stuff is over behind Animal Kingdom Lodge. So there's a lot of sharing, but they are treated as different operations teams. They really are.
Correct. One of the things we really liked about these particular folks who were sitting with us was they were very non-Disney. We
Okay.
didn't get the sugar-coated answers to stuff. They were very, very candid about a lot of things we talked about.
We asked if they gave the animal names because the young lady that was speaking with us, Jen, she has a set group of animals that she deals with. So she's very aware of what their situation is and how they're handled and things that are going on with them. And we said, do you give them names? And they both kind of sheepishly grinned and said, well, the Disney answer is no.
That we're in Africa and these are African wild animals and they're not domesticated, so they wouldn't have names. But she goes, yeah, we have names.
And we asked
there
her,
are not pets, but there are,
do any of the animals misbehave? And they both smiled again and they said, yes, we had one named Spawn. And Spawn is no longer at Animal Kingdom Lodge or Animal Kingdom Villas.
Spawn went to the furnace.
No, he went to a zoo in, I believe, San Diego.
the rotisserie.
I forget what kind of stork he was. But he's the one that looks like Alfred Hitchcock walking around with his hands behind his back. I don't remember what the stork name was. But Spawn was just not a happy camper, ever. So at this point, our dinner came out. And one of the
Spawn.
things that we were served
Was this dinner or lunch?
Lunch.
Lunch, okay.
they kept referring it to as your dinner, was a butter chicken. That's on the menu at Sanaa. It's wonderful. And the chef explained to us, people think of curry and they think of yellow spicy food. And curry, according to him, is really more the name for a stew. And they have different levels of spiciness, different flavor profiles. So the butter chicken is actually what they consider a curry. Very mild, very tender. And then we had a fish dish that is not on the menu. And that was a little stronger flavor of curry with a little spice to it.
These were served together with basmati rice in the middle. And the server explained to us that the traditional way of eating this was to put the rice on the tray and dump both onto the tray. I thought they were very good. I was very surprised.
So this is both chicken and fish?
On the right-hand side is the chicken, and the little bit of the redder one on the left is
I
fish.
disagree. But go ahead.
So when he came out and described everything, did he tell you were getting chicken and fish beforehand?
He didn't introduce every single course. He did all this beforehand.
And this is all prefixed. Basically, you just get what they serve you.
Yeah, you didn't have a choice. You didn't order. Your drinks were ordered.
Right, you can have whatever you wanted to drink.
Now, is that soft drinks or alcohol?
Just soft drinks.
But they offered us wine, so I guess that was in addition to the price of it. Again, I thought this was very good. This was a better meal experience than I've had in the past at Sanaa. Could have been the company. It could have been that we were having fun. It could have been that the chef chose.
So apparently when he dines with you, he does not have fun and it's
No.
bad company.
It's bad company. And it could have also been that the chef highlighted the things that he thought would be the best of the restaurant. It could have been like, this is really what we want to showcase.
Right. Well,
Present.
I would imagine they would. That's probably what they would try and do. And like, here's my crappiest dish. What do you think?
You're just going to eat what we put out. So that was very good.
It was. I agree. My opinion of Sanaa changed. This food was tasty and delicious.
But I'm sorry. It looks from the picture. It looks like a small portion.
I think that's deceiving. Those are good sized.
Those are large
good-sized
balls?
portions.
Okay.
And with all the bread that was served beforehand, you also are talking and eating.
But is that? I'm assuming that's served per person.
Yes. That's,
Okay.
Everybody got one of those.
We actually skipped a step. There was something in between the bread service and the entree.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. You're right.
We had the salads, and there is a watermelon and cucumber and fennel salad.
That looks refreshing.
I liked it. I don't think everybody at the table enjoyed it. I don't think John and Heather actually ate theirs. This middle one was a chickpea salad, and then there was a tomato and onion and cucumber kind of a salad.
That looks good.
They
Yeah.
were all very refreshing. So that was also served. It was the bread service, then the salad selection, and then we went on to the entree. We started at noon, and what was very interesting was the two animal people, the animal experts, they got their food and didn't eat. And we kind of felt guilty. We said,
Yeah.
please don't not eat. And they said, no, we never eat. What happens is our meals are included in the price of this, and they package them up, and we go sit and eat later because they package up nicely. Dessert was served later, and they did have
But
dessert.
isn't that a little awkward for you that you're eating and these people aren't?
No, the conversation flowed very well. I got to ask some questions, not only about what their knowledge base was, but about how they did this. I said, there's only 3 of us. And they said, they will do this as long as one person makes a reservation.
Wow.
The maximum is 12. They did say that it all depends on the interaction of the guests. And they said they kind of were surprised at how well versed we were and how knowledgeable we were about what they did. So
Oh, they're about to find out why.
Now, was it same price for everybody? If somebody
It's
brought like a 10-year-old?
No, it's $49 for adults and $29 for kids, and you go by Disney Kids.
Do you think Disney kids would enjoy this?
No, no, unless they were very, very interested in animals. I mean, there's no.
I think you might. I'm sorry. I think maybe you find it maybe 8, 9, 10 years old where they have an interest in this might be.
There's no visual stimulus.
More of an educational.
I think for your.
Oh no,
kids
I wasn't even thinking about mine, but a child that might be.
I think if they're interested in animals and have questions, yes. Otherwise, I think it would be a little boring to someone who wasn't interested in the husbandry of it all, the daily schedule and things like that.
What is the cost of this?
$49 a person.
$49 a person.
And $29 for kids based on Disney's kids' ages.
Okay.
Now, one of the things that we did learn was that this is very difficult to book. Reservations doesn't seem to be able to find it. It's held on Wednesday and Saturday. And if you call reservations, I'm hoping this changes. They asked for our feedback, and Heather explained that booking this was very difficult. You have to tell them it's at noon on Wednesday and Saturday. And if you ask for that reservation, this then pops up in the reservation system. But otherwise, it's not on there. If you call up and say, I want to book lunch with an animal expert,
they can't find it.
They can't find it.
Heather went through many steps. She tried on Disney Dining, couldn't find it. She did through her My Disney Experience, couldn't find it. She called up, they couldn't find it. Finally, she's staying concierge at Grand Floridian, and she went to them and said, listen, I know this exists. I've done it in the past. I can't seem to book it. It took the concierge woman an hour to finally figure out how to book this for her.
Wow.
So that's how she got it done. Now, interestingly enough, it was 2 days before we did it. So there was availability.
Well, that's because no one can find it.
But do you think they do that
And no
on
one knows
purpose?
about it.
No,
I went on Disney Parks blog to make sure I had the pricing correct. And the comments underneath are, this is hard to book on the phone. It's much easier to go and book in person, but it's very difficult to book on the phone. Those comments had nothing to do with us.
I just think it's the way it's set up. They haven't figured out that what you need to do is say, lunch with an animal expert, click here, and then here are the dates and the times that you can book.
So, well, this would be, I think this would be interesting for just about anybody. I think especially if you're staying at Animal Kingdom Lodge, just shooting over to Sanaa or going to the concierge at Animal Kingdom Lodge.
Now, I do
any
want
of
to
the
say
hotels.
that when John said these folks weren't Disney, I'm just going to step back on that. These folks didn't sugarcoat things.
Right. They obviously
answered our
all do work for
questions.
Disney.
They were
right,
Disney, and they were very professional, and they were very nice, and couldn't have asked for better folks. But they didn't go in and say, "Oh, look, everything is wonderful."
Our elephants are magical.
You know,
Exactly.
that's actually one of the things with the animal care at the Animal Kingdom and the Animal Kingdom Lodge. They kind of understand that anytime they interact with guests, you know, obviously you're going to be following those Disney rules of etiquette and everything, but it's less about magic and it's more about education.
Right.
And that's one of the things I learned working at Rafiki's Planet Watch is that you go from that magical place to a more real educational environment. And,
Right.
and that's how they approach it.
One of the things that was explained I thought was fascinating was they get questions about the animals' routines. When do you put nutrition out on the savannah? When do the animals go from place to place? Because guests want to experience that. And in the beginning, they were told they shouldn't share that with guests, that these were magical things and, you know, we're not supposed to expose when these things were happening. And they said that's completely turned around. Now we tell guests, yes, listen, here at this time, we're going to put out nutrition on the savannah. So you will see animals congregate in this area.
That makes sense.
They were also very specific in that animals are not trained in any behavior. They do have sound cues. Each animal has a sound cue that if it's their time to come into the barn, they respond to that sound cue. They called it operant conditioning, and that the animal is conditioning to respond. And the way they start that conditioning is that when they ring the cowbell, that's when food is produced. That's when their feeding time will be.
More cowbell.
More cowbell.
or just bring your own.
Right.
You want to see the animals up close. Bring your cowbell.
And
And that was good to see my flabby arm.
and that's how they also now they do things like if an animal has to come back in for medical examination or treatment, they do that cue and they get it to come in.
And they're sorely
One of the thing-
disappointed.
Really,
It was one of the things that I found fascinating was the fact they explained how animal husbandry has changed dramatically over the years. And not just at Animal Kingdom. They now find that this conditioning to this sound brings them in. And before, they condition them so that there are people near where they come in so that they're used to that. They used to have to sedate animals to give them veterinary care. They now find that with this conditioning, that where they know what's going on and that there are people around, that they will come in and allow you to touch them.
Wow.
they said they found in the beginning that the animals would get agitated when the vet arrived.
Right.
Oh my God, the vet's here. He's going to poke me and prod me and do things to me. What they figured out was what they needed to do was introduce people through the life cycle of this animal dressed as the vet, so that the animal wouldn't respond to someone in a white coat coming in to give
That
them
makes
treatment.
sense.
And it
They
was
were
just part of their natural.
also talking about the enrichment that they do with animals to keep them interested and to keep them from going crazy. And one of the things they do is they have puzzle boxes with special treats in them where they have to figure out that they have to put their tongue in a certain way to get the treat. One of the things she explained to us that I found fascinating was in the giraffe barn. One of the things they do is because giraffes are so visual, and I never thought of this before, they use chalk and write on the walls. And the different patterns on the walls interest the giraffes. And
Really?
they said what happens is the giraffe in the jungle, in the savannah, wherever giraffes live, everybody on the savannah looks to the giraffe for a clue. They're hypervisual because they're so tall. If there's a hyena nearby, every other animal looks to the cue of the giraffe. If the giraffe darts, they know something's up. So they said the visual stimulus to the giraffe kept them very, very occupied. And she said the
Wow.
first time she did that, they refused to go back in the barn because that was different. They said when we change their environment, it makes a drastic difference to them. And something as simple as chalk drawings on a wall made the giraffes skittish. They said they had to start over and introduce it slowly. So you think about stuff like that, and I think, well, you don't think about stuff like that. I don't anyway. I did ask, I phrased the question in that I understand that this is a question about a different theme park, but you've both seen the information going out about animals kept in captivity. I wanted to make this question as easy for them to answer without trying to throw them under the bus with anybody else. And they both said yes, they had seen it. I said, what do you think about animals in captivity? And I'm very pleased to tell you that they discussed what we discussed recently, that people care about what they see and get to know. One of the interesting things Heather brought up was that there were people who actually live in Africa who don't see these animals as special. Kind of like the way we feel about alligators. You don't see them every day, so they're really not part of your day-to-day life. If you take people out to meet these animals or get to know them, all of a sudden conservation becomes much more important.
They said they look at these animals as ambassadors. So now children are exposed to giraffes, and children are exposed to all these animals, probably for the first time ever.
I also asked about orcas. And I said, I know I have to ask about this. And they said they believe that these animals are well tended to, and again, that they are ambassadors to the world. And he used the phrase, this is kind of like taking one for the team. He said, most people have gotten their experience with orcas from SeaWorld.
Right.
The reason you care so much is because you've had some sort of attachment to them.
You've had some real exposure to them rather than just seeing them on a television show or in a movie.
Right.
You've actually, you can actually go and see one. I agree with that. I do agree that, having the ability to have an experience in person with whether it's a killer whale or an elephant or, seeing a lion laying on the rock as you go around the savannah, it does have an emotional impact. There's no question.
One of the things they talked about was the fact that no animal in any zoo has a natural existence. They can build a natural-looking savanna, but what happens is there are things that we can't see that keep animals from entering certain parts of the savanna. The other thing he said is no animal in the wild is going to have a barn to sleep in during a storm or veterinary care cage side. So he said every animal's life cycle is affected. But he said, but we consider them ambassadors for the rest of the animal world. They're doing a service to the rest of the animal world. And I thought that was a great way of talking about it.
I'm sure you've all been to the zoo or here at Animal Kingdom and seen people who look at an animal and go, wow, like that's the first time they've ever seen it up close. And, sometimes I look at them and go like, really? You've never seen a monkey or a giraffe? But they do provide a service exposing you to those animals.
You show me anybody working in that field, whether it's a marine biologist or an animal expert who didn't have that experience as a child, and that is what motivated them to go into that field and develop a lifelong love of these animals and taking care of these animals. This is why I get so frustrated when, misinformation goes out about the trainers at SeaWorld specifically, and that these people are not experienced and thrown into the water with killer whales and all this other nonsense, and it is not accurate. It just simply isn't accurate. It's not an opinion. It's just false. It's false information. These are incredibly well-trained, well-educated, caring, loving people who care for these animals in captivity.
They're also very dedicated.
Extremely dedicated.
I don't remember the exact order, but the list of accomplishments and education and experience that these two people told us about before they ever got to Disney is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Heads of zoos
especially working at Disney in the Animal Kingdom area. The bar is set really high for the level of education and professionalism.
Hourly employees that work with the animals, people who feed them, actually transport from the nutrition center to the feeding. The hourly employee, those positions come up, he said, not very often, but more often than the salaried positions. He said they recently had a position and they had 400 applications for one position. And he said, this isn't that we had 350 that weren't qualified. He said, we had 400 qualified applicants. And he said, what we had to do was we had to select the cream of the crop. So you not only had to have all your animal information and education, you got to be able to deal with the public.
Right.
Because there's at any given time you could be out and dealing with a guest. So he said, we are looking for the most well-rounded people.
So what about, let's kind of go back to the animals that were cooked for your enjoyment. So we've gotten as far as, I guess that was the main course, the chicken and fish.
Now, I know you're not a
rice.
fish eater. He was very specific in the fact that he could change one person's entree.
I believe the young lady who was Jen, who was our expert, I believe she was a vegetarian because I don't think she got the chicken or the fish, so they could have switched that out for you. And then this behind me is the dessert. Want to talk about the dessert?
And yeah,
The dessert that we were served, I can't find it on the Sanaa menu. At the far end, there was a mango cheesecake with a berry compote, which was surprisingly good. It's about as big around as a 50-cent piece.
Johnny, you taking these pictures?
I did.
Fantastic job.
Thank you.
The next one is a chai tea mousse,
Oh,
which
It was
was
gross.
really?
Oh, I was so grossed out by it.
it comes with a chocolate spoon.
Sounds delicious.
I loved it. And
I
the
love
last
chai
was a
tea.
little chocolate pyramid with a cake and some caramel sauce.
It was like a cup of tea boogers. It really was not appetizing.
Wow. Anybody planning to experience this, thanks you for putting that visual in.
I thought it was delicious.
You liked it. Other people liked it. I
So
thought the two on the either end were great. I enjoyed both of those.
now, after our meal,
Just real quick, they offered coffee and something as, if you want to have a coffee with dessert. So that was included as well.
there was Heather had prepaid for this, so that it was already paid. There was no presentation of a bill. There was no gratuity. It was over at the
Nice.
table. However, she asked us to step outside into the small area off Sanaa where you can go outside and see the animals. Right near the exit, there's a little paddock where they have 2 radiating tortoises that they used to have together. They believe them to be about 35 years old. And they had to put a division up because every single day they would get multiple calls a day. One of the turtles is tipped over.
They were fighting.
They feel that there were 2 males.
What? I don't. What radiating is it?
Go back a second.
Nuclear?
No. What she explained was each of those little segments of their shells has radiating circles.
Oh.
We asked the same question. Do they glow in the dark?
She went over, she picked it up, she presented it to us. We were not allowed to touch the tortoise, but it was very cool to see it very close up. Heather asked questions. We talked to her about it. It was really cool.
Sounds incredible for $49.
The outside part was about 20 minutes. She also explained different things. She explained about the breed of zebra that's there. That is different from
Typical African zebra.
zebra. This is a rarer breed, an endangered breed. And she said the way you can tell that this is the endangered species is that the stripes don't go all the way around their bodies. The stripes go down and there's a white belly.
And apparently the girl who's in charge of this zebra was very excited because they got a 4th one. I mean, she has some very interesting, cool inside stories. Which I
The
thought were
woman
great.
who's in these zebras are all registered. Every single one of these zebras that's living is registered. And she keeps track of the zebra registration for the whole world.
Wow.
So when they had 2 births, she was very excited to add 2 zebras to the registry, but they're at Disney World.
So they have like social security numbers.
kind of.
I can tell you something really interesting. Something I thought was cool was they identify every animal by a notch in its ear. So the animals when they come in, they notch their ears and they can count up the notches in however formation they are, and that's how they know what animal is which.
So that each animal. I said, "Can you tell the animals apart?" And she said, "Absolutely." They all have personalities. So that even though the notches are in the ear, that's if someone else has to take care of them. I asked if she was on call, and she said no, she works a certain set hours. She is the person in charge of these animals. There is someone who works the night shift and a vet on duty. But she said I asked if something was happening with one of your animals, and her boss, this guy Joseph, who was wonderful, said she wouldn't leave. None of them would leave if something was going down with one of their animals.
Yeah.
They're all very dedicated. He said, I can't get them to leave, and I wouldn't ask them to.
Well, that's nice to hear, though.
Doesn't surprise me.
I got the feeling that this young lady was doing this out of love. She was doing this out of, you know how they say you do certain things because you can't picture yourself doing anything else? She couldn't picture herself doing anything else.
Well, it's also that something that we know very well, the joy you get from sharing your passion. Right. And, that sounds like what this is.
Now, we don't think that we had two people there because they recognized us, because we had nothing to do with making the reservation.
Right, and it was in Heather's name.
Right.
So
it was in somebody else's name completely. I don't think every group will get the second person. And I will say that he added to our experience his knowledge. So that was interesting. But you sit with an animal expert.
But it also sounds like she could have carried
handled it.
lunch by
Did you get a
herself.
special view, a special table with a nice view?
They set us in the table we've set up before. It does have a view of the savannah. It's kind of in the corner. We could see the animals go behind us, but it wasn't for any reason. I think it was more because they wanted us sort of off to ourselves. But it wasn't like, oh, here an animal's going by. Let me talk about that animal.
No one bothered us while we were sitting down. When we were outside, she was talking to the three of us in the open air. Several people came up and asked questions. She was very gracious, answered the questions. One lady asked about have zebras ever been domesticated and used as beasts of burden. And she kind of smiled and laughed and said, no one's ever going to domesticate a zebra. Don't even try. So it was out in the open. She answered questions for other people too, but people were very respectful.
On the website, it says $5 of the price goes to the Disney's Worldwide Conservation Fund, which I think is great.
Oh, that's
nice.
wonderful.
That's awesome. Great experience. We really enjoyed it very much. We kind of looked at each other and went and said, this is more of the stuff we should be doing. We should be experiencing these special things that they put together that we've not done before. It helps keep us sort of connected with Disney, sort of the backstagey stuff that we like.
I've been having a problem with the fact that I have sort of lost my passion for being in the parks. I find the parks very, very crowded. And if you have any kind of disability, and please, I'm not suggesting that I'm disabled, but I have problems with my vision. And I also use a cane. I've got to tell you that I find the parks very, very difficult to maneuver at times. People...
And not the parks themselves, it's the people, it's the crowds.
Right. So I have sort of lost my passion for racing into the Magic Kingdom to ride Haunted Mansion. I got my passion for Disney back with this adventure.
Wow.
This is what
That's high
Disney
praise.
does. This is what they connect you to what you're looking at. And I lost sight of that. Maybe I'm jaded. Maybe I've been to the parks too many times. But the thrill of riding Haunted Mansion just isn't there anymore. And I think this made me see that what I really have to look at is how does Disney connect you with what you're looking at?
Yeah.
And
What a great perspective.
I think that happened to the three of us. It was kind of like, holy moly, this is really what Disney's good at. I got to learn about things I've never even heard of. Apparently, one of the animals hurt another animal. It was an oryx. And no one stopped and said, what's an oryx? So as they went along, I finally said, I don't know what an oryx is. Oh, and she went back and she explained to me it's the deer-like creature with the scimitar-shaped...
Oh, yeah.
And that it had hurt another animal. So it had to be moved. Those two animals had to be separated. So, but they did that by just putting it in a different savanna. And everybody's happy and healthy again. By the way, the other animal's fine. As she didn't tell us that right away. And I could see Heather being like sort of horrified that this animal might still be hurt. Heather's a vet. So she finally came around to the fact that both animals are fine and thriving and things like that. I think it gave me a new appreciation for the animals at Animal Kingdom. I think it gave me a new appreciation for the people that you don't really give much thought to when you
Right.
see the animals. There's a whole substructure out there that she explained to us that I found fascinating. Not a substructure, a whole organization, a sub-organization under the frontline cast member that support everything.
It's like I've said it before. It's like a college campus back there behind Animal Kingdom and Animal Kingdom Lodge. It's a whole. It's like a whole hospital environment, and it's really spectacular to see.
It made me want to take the other tours that are available with the animals. I thought, I'm going to do the rest of them.
But that's still part of what brought you to Disney in the first place was the details and how Disney can bring you into a story. And now they've got you caring about the animals. It's
reignited that, I think, for almost everything. That I lost sight of the fact I've gotten to the point where going to Disney is a hassle. There's not a lot of joy in it. It's like you got to park, you got to take another form of transportation, you got to deal with people who are just crazed. And you know something? It made me realize what I loved to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It brought me back to, wow, this really is the happiest place
I think
on
that's
earth.
about the highest form of phrase you could give an experience like this.
It was awesome.
To reconnect you with that passion. I mean, that's terrific. So $49 for adults, $29 for children under 10, and available at Sanaa at the Animal Kingdom Lodge. It sounds incredible.
We
Go
had a
into
great
this.
time.
Go into this with questions. Go into this knowing what you want to know. They answered everything. But I said to them, were we overly talkative? She said, no, I love this. This was a dialogue. She said, I do have groups that sit there and sort of wait for me to impress them. So she said, you will have a better experience if you go in prepared to ask questions and interact and learn what you want to learn.
This is something you should do.
Really?
You should absolutely do this.
Okay. There's a lot of those I'd like to do. I'd like to do the Dine with the Imagineer. I'd like to do something like this. I never get a chance. I don't make it happen.
You gotta admit, right.
I can't say I don't get a chance to
I'm
do
going to be
it.
honest, until Heather mentioned it, I didn't know this existed.
Right. You got to make it happen.
Oh, awesome. Well, fantastic report. It sounds incredible and sounds like something I think we'll find some of our listeners wanting to experience. You got me interested. So, all right. Well, thank you both very much for that. That'll do it for this segment. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll be back with you again next time with another edition of the DIS Unplugged. Thanks for being with us, everybody. And remember, stay out of the damn lakes. Bye-bye.